show where we discuss and promote various like indie games and indie projects about helping the indie community grow and stuff. And we do this Wednesday, Friday at 2 p.m. at twitch.tv/now. Here we can come in and promote and talk about your project. But today we are doing the third episode of our podcast, and today's guest is the developer of Shadowcrawl, wickedcakegames. Welcome, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Would you like to tell everyone a little bit more about yourself, what you do, about your game, and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so I'm a independent developer. I've just been programming in C-based languages my whole life. Worked at indie game companies for a while, but it was a lot of like business and drama and that kind of thing. So I decided to go work on my own indie games, and recently just launched my first game, Shadowcrawl. It's I did a classic roguelike. I grew up on games like Gauntlet and NetHack and that kind of thing back in the day. I've been playing roguelikes, for almost 25 years now. And I feel like they got kind of stale and repetitive and had too much luck-based mechanics. So I tried to make something that was much more skill-dependent and kind of just a roguelike I really wanted to play. Definitely went overboard on like the crazy, awesome features. There's like a full solar calendar. I have the lunar calendar, so on like full moons when you play the game and that kind of thing, there will be events and weird stuff will happen. All the holidays too. I've just been adding features kind of compulsively for it for like years before launch, and then for like a year since launch now. So it's growing to something kind of big and kind of neat.
So, did you play a lot like roguelike as a kid? Did you even like play a lot of games as a kid, or did you get into games like later? When did the whole like playing video games thing happen?
Oh yeah, I've definitely been gaming ever since I was like as long as I can remember. I had an NES like before I was born. My parents had one even, so they just as soon as I was born, they were trying to get me to game. And that's why I grew up playing kind of those really old school roguelikes too. I added like I kind of was making this for like a nostalgia kind of feel to recapture how it felt to play those games back in the day. And I even added like camera filters for 80s, 90s, and modern televisions, so you can like customize your nostalgia. Because yeah, the whole thing was definitely like a gaming back in the day kind of nostalgia trip from when I was little, basically.
So, depending on when you listen to this, the holiday happened. So, did you have a good Christmas? And to expand on that, did you have any like memorable like gaming gifts or like Christmas gifts as a kid that like stands out to you?
Yeah, I definitely had a pretty good holiday this year. Got lots of cool stuff for my friends and family, and got some cool stuff, and definitely like a lot of gaming holiday memories, especially from like getting a Sega Genesis is one of my best ones. And then if you ever played the game Flashback for the Sega Genesis, I also got that one year on Christmas. And that game, like, it's inspired a lot of games today. It's very like I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of like if you played Oddworld Abe's Odyssey. It's in the style. It's what that game's gameplay is based off of, or Another World. It's just a very like inspirational game, and playing it in my formative years, it's definitely always influenced kind of a lot of my design and stuff like that. Early Metroid games too. My goodness, I loved. They took such like care and focus on world building, like such a degree that a lot of other games did not back in the day.
I've never played a Metroid game.
Oh man, like the way they like kind of put together like on the NES, going into like a certain biome and finding an ecosystem of kind of cooperating and competing animals like that for something so long ago, it was just very inspiring. And like I've always wanted to make games kind of in that vein of like almost simulations, or like have a lot of depth or a lot of things going on kind of behind the scenes. And like just the world building in Metroid was so effective because again, they built these kind of ecosystems out of these alien creatures they'd create, and they just had an entire like catalog of them that you could research on and find information about. And it was so cool for, again, another game from the formative years.
Yeah, for me, one of the earliest presents I can remember was getting like an N64, and I had the like orange like Donkey Kong one.
Oh, nice.
And the Donkey Kong 64, and that was like how I got into gaming. And then I
Oh,
went.
that's awesome.
Then for some reason I don't know how, but I went backwards. I went from an N64 to an SNES. Don't ask how, it doesn't like make sense. But I know like some of our viewers might be older, might be younger, so not everyone quite knows what a roguelike is. So did you want to explain what a roguelike is?
Oh yeah, that's a very good point, and that's kind of another reason I developed this. When I would show this off at shows, I would discover kind of the younger players. It uses something called free turn-based movement, where it's turn-based, but like everybody moves at the same time. So when you move, everyone else moves as well. It's grid-based, so that's how you kind of execute this. And if you move a tile, everyone else moves a tile. It lends itself to like a really interesting strategic gameplay. But my younger players at shows, they would not recognize this type of gameplay. They had never seen it before.
Yeah, like when I play, like I was familiar with like roguelike, but what like drew me off was like the whole churn-based roguelike. Like I've never played like a churn-based, and the whole like churn-based like free movement thing was new. So I thought maybe you were the first one to come up with something, but obviously you took that inspiration from like other roguelike games.
Yeah, and it was so shocking and interesting to me that it was so old it's new again, and that like definitely convinced me that I definitely need to make this in a way that it can bring newer audiences into the genre while kind of catering to the way old players like to play these things. And yeah, the tutorial at the beginning, a lot of the players will mention that like the tutorial feels like it's made for someone who's never played a roguelike before, and I feel called out by those players because they nailed it 100%. I had to figure out how to teach people who've never seen that how to play it, and you might have played it pre the tutorial too. Again, input like yours, everything anyone's ever told me has pretty much gone into this game. So stuff that I learned while watching you play it and stuff like that would go
like the tutorial. I think it's the hardest thing to get right in a game.
Oh gosh, absolutely.
Like the first 5 minutes of gameplay can like make or break your game.
Yeah. No, that's an insightful game design comment. Yeah, I see you know some game design stuff. That's 100% correct. My goodness, tutorial is like it seems impossible.
No, I just will watch extra credits.
Oh, okay. Well, no, they do give a lot of good advice in there.
Yeah. Like one game, like I love this series, but though the tutorials have gone better. Kingdom Hearts 2 is like infamous for having like a 2 hour it's like tutorial, and a lot of it is like hand holding, like how to use the camera and stuff. And it's not just that the like dumping a lot of exposition from the previous games, you know. Luckily they fixed that in Kingdom Hearts 3. Like Kingdom Hearts 3, they put you right into it. So, but like it.
Oh, so great, yeah.
Getting a tutorial, like you want to like teach a person how to play, but you don't want to handhold them too much, and I think it's especially like tricky with like a JRPG or an RPG because you also have to set up the world.
There's so much depth, exactly, and there's so many things that have so much depth in that kind of environment. That's so true.
So, what was the first like roguelike you played?
Man, they go way back. NetHack was early. Some of the early ones I remember really well were not until the Sega Genesis, probably. I played a lot of Fatal Labyrinth on there. Oh yeah, I'd also play a lot of. They're called dungeon crawlers. They're basically first-person roguelikes. Wizardry. Oh man, the Wizardry games. Those were there were games. There's nothing that had as much depth as the Wizardry game. I spent like half my childhood reading the handbook for that game because that came with the game because it was so deep and amazing. Yeah, I miss when game handbooks were like that. It was like
like the old like Sierra games and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't get into the Sierra games. So one of the game design like principles I have is a game ideally should potentially be beatable on your first try.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they use too much abstraction of information, which is kind of a lazy technique, 100%. Yep, it is, because then you have to brute force answers, and that's not...
Well, it's not just that. From what I hear, it's possible that you can screw up to a point where the game becomes unbeatable.
Wow. Oh, wow. That's harsh. Yeah.
That's why I hear anyways. I've never like really played the old school. I've just seen other people play because, let's plays are a thing. So,
no, and I love like complex and deep game design, and so I definitely think about like a really long-term design stuff. Again, I had a bunch of end game content that basically became the second half of the game as I added more new end game content to keep making it longer. But like throughout the way like the holiday events work, a lot of the stuff is kind of like secret because it's I made a really complex meta game. I almost don't tell anyone on like the Twitter about this stuff. I let some of the players figure it out in the Discord. But like the way holiday events and all that stuff work, your game world has states like how much glitch corruption is in your world and like what gods and goddesses are still alive, and those affect the actual mechanics of the game. Solar calendar and lunar calendar events affect the meta stats, so they'll increase the corruption or block a god, and it dynamically generates your holiday events. But like if you go and tamper with the natural forces, then you'll make things crazy things start happening. Like all the players can become undead meat piles where the health mechanic completely changes, stuff like that. And it changes slowly throughout the course of the entire year until the new year when everything resets. But yeah, I just love thinking about how your game will work long term. And it sounds like with things like where you get into a state where the game's unbeatable, they just weren't thinking about the long term design in their games.
Yeah. So what do you think is the whole like appeal of like a roguelike?
So a lot of them is like the mystery. So the way they hide mechanics, you'll find things that like you'll stumble on something that you feel like it's something that no one else anywhere's ever seen before because it's such like an obscure or deep mechanic, and they're really good at fostering that sense of mystery and creating that feeling. But the problem with them was that you had to be like a really hardcore gamer to get far enough into a roguelike to get that kind of feeling, that sense of wonder. And I wanted to make it kind of available to everyone. And that's why like the holiday events and stuff like that will force weird mechanics out. You can see I've had players, I have guest characters from a few famous games. I'll send you a link for Faith is one of them. I've had players that show up in the Discord talking about, I did not expect to be killed by Michael from the Faith series. That was like a big surprise. So things like that shock and awe. I have Missing No from the Pokemon games. They can't copyright the way he looks. So if you like start glitching the game world, Missing No can show up and start attacking you. And it creates this incredible sense of their jaws hit the floor when Missing No shows up. Yeah, it creates such a sense of wonder and mystery. And I wanted to make it accessible to everyone. It like felt like such an exclusive club to get that exploration feeling that roguelikes offer.
So is that kind of what made you want to make a roguelike, or do you have like a specific story of the moment like, okay, I know I need to make this game, that this game has to be made?
I actually do, yeah. Because so like I'd made this engine off and on for years. Every time I would get big time back into roguelikes, I'd get really frustrated at the heavy luck dependency in the games. Like for example, since you haven't played many, you don't know about this. For example, all your potions are colored, right? So you have red potion, pink potion, green potion. Every playthrough, what they do is randomized. So like I basically start every playthrough with like playing Russian roulette with potions and hoping I survive the first pass of drinking everything. So I know what they do. So I'm not playing Russian roulette in the middle of a fight. And like it can ruin a whole run, when it's not really like a central part of the gameplay loop per se. And so I just wanted, you can make a luck build and then die from a bad roll and net hack. And that kind of stuff was so frustrating. So I wanted a skill dependent roguelike. And I might have gone overboard taking out all luck mechanics because it made me discover where they have their purpose. You always know ahead of time if you're going to win or lose, because it's entirely skill dependent, very kind of chess like almost. And now I see luck can turn that into thinking you're going to lose into, oh, I brought it back for some reason. So that's where luck could come back, I see now. But yeah, and I got back into the Android roguelikes. I made this engine like 10 years ago, abandoned it, came back to the Android roguelikes more recently, and got so frustrated again at how they were all exactly the same, nothing skill-based, everything luck-based, and not enough depth really for me. And that's when I decided I just had to make my own roguelike pretty much. And finish Shadowcrawl basically.
It's always cool to see like what inspires a person to like make a thing, because I feel like a lot of like famous like creators have that like one like at the diner with an Nakim story, but I played like a couple roguelikes. Like there was one called like Noita. I don't know like how you pronounce it. It's like Noita. But you mentioned you had your own like engines. So my question is, do you have any like formal like education, or are you self-taught?
I'm mostly self-taught. I have taken classes here and there. Some of it was useful, some of it wasn't. Like honestly, Google. I used to joke when I work at indie game companies that my only marketable skill was the ability to optimize Google search phrases, and they thought that was hilarious because that's kind of a lot of what we did there is just Googling. I've seen professional game devs on Twitter tweet like, I've been doing this for 15 years and I still Google basic things every single day. Stuff like that. So like self-educating and programming and that kind of thing is kind of a lot easier than they make it sound. But again, taking like one or two classes just here and there, maybe even auditing them, just to like fill out the holes you might have while self-learning is a good idea too. And I'd recommend that. The books on programming, there's a lot of really good books out there too. A lot of the programming for stuff is actually really helpful.
And there's a lot of like online courses. If it's like
Khan Academy now probably has all programming stuff and that kind of thing. I haven't even thought about that stuff. I actually did this in Unity, but programmed like the roguelike parts from scratch. But Unity tutorials too. If you want to start programming, Unity's like it's incredibly powerful. But it's in C#, which is a C-based language. So it's great. But like when it first came out back in the day, we used to jokingly call it baby's first C++, and it turned out that was its superpower because that means anyone can now program in a C language. That's an incredible thing. And Unity tutorials, like I haven't. Back when I first learned Unity, it was because I was getting a job doing Unity. And so I watched the first 12 minutes of Unity tutorials and went and got the job because back then even the tutorials were incredible. I can't imagine how good they are now today. They must be remarkable.
So what kind of like jobs did you have before you started working on your own game?
So I'd work at small indie companies. Usually like they just need people who know Unity. But I have a heavy math background, so I'd get I'd do VR stuff and that kind of thing because a lot of like weird angle math. Oh my gosh, yeah, I have horror stories about like testing out VR code while wearing the goggles and just being nauseous for a whole hour. Or like my arms were flipped around and my shoulders were where my hands should be, and it was weirdly startling to look down and see nubs instead. It was freaky alarming. Yeah, I could not believe it. That was before they discovered it's good for phantom limb syndrome. And once I heard that, I was like, that explains a lot. Because, yeah, that was like a real feeling. Yeah, I thought VR was a gimmick before I worked in it. And, oh, my God, as soon as I stood on a ledge and got vertigo, I was like, whoa, this is a whole sensory experience. This is not just another gimmick. Wow. Yeah.
Like, I want to get VR eventually. I just have to figure out, like, better room space. Because all I have is this, like, tiny room, so
yeah,
you know. But so how much So you say you developed in Unity, correct? Right? Hello.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So how much like planning did you actually do before you started like developing the game?
For this one, kind of a lot, but like the way I plan, like I don't put a lot of stuff to paper per se. Like I got lucky with some of the because I had worked out the mechanics in like a smaller engine like years and years and years before. And just kind of it was ASCII. It was all in a Win32 console. That was it. It was a console window game. And so I'd worked out the mechanics beforehand, but like actual programming and that kind of thing, I didn't really put a lot of pen to paper. I just kind of like thought about what I needed and then kind of like if you can kind of visualize the scope of a project, you can kind of complete it, you know? And so just kind of once I got started, two other ideas would come up. Yeah, that's the other thing too. I feel like there's a right way to work organically, you know, because it's kind of a creative process. I feel like only indies get to make games too that kind of grow organically. Because in the office environment, it's when I worked at other companies. That's the thing. You know, I'm missing those in the game, and I have like the reptilian space pope from Futurama, and just every random idea that came into my head wound up in the game. I would make all those suggestions when I'd work at companies, and they would tell me you can't put every single thing that pops into your head into a video game. They would tell me if I made my own video game or directed my own video game, it'd be an episode of Family Guy because it'd be nonstop pop culture references, which is true. But what they were wrong is it turns out I can put every single thing that pops into my head into a video game. And so that's what was really cool about it. And I just kind of designed the framework of the game. Yeah, that's the secret. I give lectures on this too sometimes is like building a game's like a tower. And so like if you build your foundational code of that tower like incredibly sturdy, you can add on any crazy tacky features on the side of that tower and it will stand up straight and run great pretty much. And that's kind of what lets me work kind of wildly and organically is my foundational code is super legit, very optimized and modular. And from there, I can add pretty much anything that pops into my head on the fly.
So do you think there's a such thing as putting like too much in a game? Like, should there ever be a stopping point, or do you think just go for it?
It's funny because maybe at the beginning I wasn't sure, but like one thing is like continuing to work on it was preventing me from working on other stuff. I kind of also started using it as a test bed for ideas, which I think can be good. So if you can find a way to not let it hold you back, yeah, that's what I think. I think a game, because a game truly is never ever finished. No game is. There's just a point where everyone decides we're just going to stop working on this now because we could work on this our whole lives. And I think if you can find a way to add stuff without it interfering with you moving on to other things, then there's no such thing as too much. But if it's kind of holding you back and that kind of thing, yeah, now I test out ideas when I wanted to build the lunar calendars and solar calendars, see if I could program things to track eclipses, that kind of stuff. That's all great to like test on Shadowcrawl and then move to other places. So I think I found a good mix now on how to keep adding stuff and move forward.
But it took you a while to like get to that point, right?
True, exactly. Yeah, it did. Yeah, because I would just add everything that popped into my head and not work on anything else. And it's kind of convenient because, like, I'm an artistic type of programmer, so I'm just doing this because I'm compelled to, right? It's like not by any like, I don't know, like kind of willfully doing it. You just like programmers and artists are like forced kind of by urges to work on stuff. So it was convenient to be able to put every programming urge I had into one place. And I realized, oh, I can't keep doing that. I must move forward and work on new engines and that kind of thing.
So, you were talking about like programmers and artists. So are you just a programmer, or are you also the artist who does the art?
By artist in that sense, I kind of mean more like an artistic type of person, but I have been like practicing drawing with all of this stuff for a few years now, and I'm finally like not terrible at pixel art, I'd say, which is kind of a huge accomplishment. I think you have to work really hard before you reach a point where you don't completely hate everything you draw, you know? So it's nice and encouraging too, because you feel like you're making little progress until you're like, hey, I don't hate this piece of art. This is gratifying. Yeah. Yeah, learning pixel art's been a journey. It's neat to see, like, programmers don't think you can learn art. They think you're born with it. And I was totally in that camp, but it's been nice to see that, like, no, if you just work really hard at it and never stop practicing, you can slowly learn art.
So, which do you think is like harder to learn, programming or art?
Programmers will always tell you art's harder to learn, and then the artist friends will always tell me programming sounds like way harder to learn. But in my opinion, like, with the tools they have today, I think programming is easier to get into, and jump right into and get moving with, you know. Again, Unity's powerful. GameMaker, I was using GameMaker back in like 2002 before Yo-Yo Games owned it, and back then it was incredible, and it was just one guy in the Netherlands. Today it's a huge corporation, so I imagine GameMaker, I see GameMaker games on Steam occasionally and that kind of thing. You know?
I see them all the time. I stream them all the time.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Yeah. Again, I love that program. I'll definitely, I don't know how Yo-Yo Games is done with it. I haven't kept up with it, but I'll always rep that program and people learning with it.
Oh yeah, like you'd be surprised of like what games have actually been made in like GameMaker.
Yeah.
Like it's like impressive. So you said you did the pixel art of your game yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I did all of the characters and environments. There's 4 intro cinematics that I didn't do. They were my artist friend's first try at doing pixel art. They're masterpieces, and I hate him for being so good on his first try. I guess it transfers from regular art skills, but the rest of the art in the whole game, yeah, I did. And it's kind of how I practiced. The player characters were the first things I did, and by the launch date, they looked terrible, and I redid them, and now they're the best looking things, because I just would literally get better every single day as I kept practicing on characters. There's like over 200 enemies in the game. There's well over 800 sprite files in the game. It's just an insane amount of stuff, just because the practice makes perfect, basically.
Yeah. So would you have any advice for like a person making a game? They want to do the programming, they want some kick-ass art, but they don't know like how to go about making that art. Do you have any tips to help them like get the art they want?
Yeah, absolutely. There's incredible open source game art websites all over the internet. If you just type that into Google, you'll find good stuff. And the people, it's other people practicing their pixel art. They don't have intentions for these cool game graphics they're putting up. They release them under an assortment of general usage licenses. And so you can totally use them for your prototypes. Some of you use them for your finished games. A lot of these artists, if you contact them, they'll be really excited and might even work with you. Yeah, there's lots of great resources if you're getting into programming and need art. And way back in the day, when I was working in GameMaker, I would go to the GameMaker forums, and that place, like, oh my gosh, there's so many talented young people. I was very young back when I was using GameMaker forums, and they're just all people my age, incredible artists. And the resources available today, things like Sprite, make pixel art a breeze. That's been helping me learn a lot as well. So I imagine if you went in the GameMaker forums and started looking for help, even if you're not working in GameMaker, a lot of these people would probably be willing to work with you. It might be against the rules to snipe people off the GameMaker forums for a Unity project. I guess you'd have to check that. Forums might be the same. But yeah, there's lots of great resources and people everywhere just looking to help out programmers and help out artists. And
hey, as long as you don't get caught, right?
That's true, yeah. Just don't let the mods catch it. There you go.
So you have a lot of like different like monsters and like characters. Actually, if you look back there, I actually have your poster hanged up. Oh, you can't even see it, but it's all the way on the top. It's all the way on the top. But How did you go by making each of those like characters, monsters, unique?
This is something else I like to teach people at the expos. You always hear, and again, this is why it was really nice to break away from the corporate environment. Because even the indie stuff, they're trying too hard to imitate the corporate environment at the indie companies. A lot of them, it's kind of like a form over function type of thing. You know what I mean? They think if they imitate like the proper form, the function will follow suit. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But the way I do things that you'll hear talked against a lot is I write the story for a lot of the stuff first, basically. And like that's what lets me keep quests fresh and monsters fresh. I basically just like for Shadowcrawl, I wrote a ridiculous, massive, expansive lore, and that's usually how I start. I'll make like a giant timeline and start kind of just extrapolating lore, going wild with it, almost with no intent of putting any of it directly in the game, which kind of helps with the storytelling techniques seem mysterious and interesting, and not expositional. But what's works great about it is I have a huge pool of content to pull from once I start actually working on the game. And so, like, if I need to make hold on one second. I need to make like more quests or more monsters or more anything. I have just this giant bucket of lore that I can reach my hand into and pull out stuff for and keep it fresh, basically.
Do you think it's like important to come up with the story first before you start with gameplay, or should gameplay come before story?
And so that's true. I did develop the kind of gameplay a long time ago. That's the other thing. So like I actually develop mechanics and storytelling kind of hand in hand, and I use what I call mechanical storytelling that I also like to talk about when I do panels and stuff like that, that I don't hear people talk enough about. I tell a lot of the story through mechanics. Things like, for example, if you sacrifice a player or an NPC, you can become a demon. When you're a demon, the optimal way to play is a very like underhanded kind of cheap way to play. So I shape the way you play kind of through the story of your perks. Or if you become like a bloodthirsty monster or a werewolf, you're always losing health and have to attack people to regain it. So I kind of will put all of my kind of storytelling intermingled with my mechanics. It's probably helpful to come up with your central mechanic for the game first, or like if you like, because a lot of it boils down to what makes your game interesting or unique. And so you figure out unique things within your central mechanic. You'll hear minimum viable product. If you've ever, oh yeah, you watch Extra Credits. Have you seen their minimum viable product episode? That one puts it really well of kind of stripping down a game to its constituent mechanics. So he talked about Mario would work if Mario's not fun without enemies. If it's not fun with only running and jumping, then you know it's not fun. So you keep kind of your core mechanics in mind while you're also developing your story, but kind of doing it hand in hand, I think, is kind of the best way. And again, it makes for, so the only other examples I can think of with mechanical storytelling is JRPGs will hide it in there a lot. If ever you've had a mystery in a JRPG that's solved by figuring out one of the perks that an enemy or a boss has, and I use this too, there are characters that you don't understand what's happened to them, but if you hit them with shock damage, it'll tell you bonus shock to mechanical. You go, oh, they're a robot now. So that's a little bit of mechanical storytelling that JRPGs do utilize. They'll use a little bit of that kind of thing. Yeah, so hand in hand is a really good way to go about it.
So, is there like a mechanic, a particular mechanic in your game that you're like the most like proud of?
I kind of a little bit like so what's neat is secretly a lot of the inspiration for a lot of my mechanics come from Animal Crossing. And that's because Animal Crossing didn't treat your different save files like they were completely separate universes. They treated all your save files like they existed in the same world together. Yeah, I absolutely can't get over how incredible this idea is. And so that's why things like the glitch, remember I talked about you can free missing no? If a powerful, they'll hunt you, they can jump between your save files and they'll hunt your low level characters. So if powerful people free powerful glitches and then you go onto a new low level character, they will be hunted by those high level glitches and you have to take your high level save files out to get the glitches to come to them so you can clear out the glitches for your low level guys. Again, what I said about gods in the game, control mechanics in the game, things like if you go and find the goddess of health with any character and you kill her, every single save file will be affected by the new mechanic changes. It changes how the health mechanic works. Everyone, like, it's very dramatic how it changes. Everyone has leech life. You're kind of in a health-based economy where all of the health flows to the top of the economy, and you basically better hope that's you. And it affects, if you start a new game, this new game will still have this game mode active because you've killed the global goddess of health. And I just love this idea that different save files exist in the same universe. So those kinds of mechanics, those kind of fourth wall grazing mechanics are some of my favorite ones in the game.
Your game's on Steam. Did you want to like talk about your like what was that like process like getting your game on Steam? Was it an easy simple process or
simple, but you need to do everything kind of ahead of time and just be prepared for delays. Basically, there'll always be minor delays that pop up, and so if you're kind of doing everything at the last minute, you may miss your launch day. You'll probably definitely miss your launch day, and it's just kind of Steam's got a lot going on. There's a lot like of stuff that gets processed in those early days, and yeah, just be prepared basically to launch like probably a week before your actual launch date.
So, would there any like particular like personal like struggles you had getting your game on Steam that you want to talk about? Don't feel pressure that you have to talk about them if you don't want to. A
little bit, yeah. So Steam likes to verify your mechanics, and as you know, well, not only are mechanics in roguelikes like obscure, but the mechanics in my game are particularly insane and just sound completely made up. Again, the lunar calendar is in the game. So a lot of this stuff, I had to go back and forth with them for a while. And yeah, that's the thing. I've seen viral Twitter threads of stuff of people's games getting sent back to them saying, like, we need to verify these insane, obscure mechanics, and the people are totally freaked out. Definitely, like, yeah, definitely just work with the Steam. Steam's kind of painted in the media as like being faceless and being unmanned, but the mods are definitely there and like listening. And when you send out help tickets, they will show up. And if you just work with them, be personable, try your hardest to like maybe just take a screenshot here and there, or like just explain in extreme detail how to get to these mechanics, then they'll work with you.
So I'm not like completely familiar with like Steam publishing and like as like an indie and stuff. So does like Steam have like an algorithm or no? Do you know? Does Steam have an algorithm?
Oh yeah, and that's one of the things I have heard. So I try to follow the indie devs. The indie news doesn't really follow like the weird ways the market shifts. So I try to follow the development community to like figure out trends. It gets really like there's just a lot of information flying around. It's helpful to find like reliable kind of game devs who so some people who are really small but living just enough off of their game, following them, they're almost unfortunately like canaries in this market. And when things start going bad in the market, you'll see these people struggling first. It's a good sign. Plus, you can get the word out about them when you see them start struggling and help them out. But I had heard the algorithms on Steam were drifting away from indie devs. A lot of even the people who were medium tier indie devs started struggling in the winter sales. They said the winter sales revealed kind of how the algorithms had changed because a lot of people who'd lived reliably off of kind of winter cell numbers started dropping like flies, and it sounded really scary. So I think it's getting more and more important to be out there, be on itch.io and wherever else. Wherever else you can kind of publish a platform. Epic, of course, I contacted Epic day one, and they mentioned like it doesn't sound like the actual indie floodgates have opened, like so bigger indies are coming. I didn't think so because like once they open that, it's just there's so many of us, and what Akira was saying about quality control. Yeah, there's just so many games released every single day that Epic still, I knew they'd had a lot of preparing to do before just regular Joes like me, you know, could ask to be on there.
So you haven't been able to manipulate the algorithm to your bending yet?
Yeah, no. And kind of a lot of like, so the biggest thing I hear, so social media is really important. And Reddit is the
Reddit, my arch nemesis.
Oh yeah, it's definitely tricky. The thing is that like it works the way it does because it's structured in a very like rigid way. So like it's very hard to like you have to be very active on there. Well, if you're advertising and stuff like that, it's very hard to like accidentally step on a mod's toes here and there. And you have to be careful with that. But if you figure out how to use Reddit right, it's one of the most powerful things for funneling people into my other communities. But yeah, that's why social media is so important because you have to get yourself out there at this point, basically, and get yourself known. The algorithms, everyone, the biggest thing I hear from people on social media is that they can't believe they never heard about my game. Like it's perfect for them. It fits all their tastes. And they never heard about it. And that again has to do with Steam algorithms. The algorithms know the game fits all the tastes, but it seems like it's a little less indie now. It's hard to say.
Yeah. Well, and also those like this, I've mentioned this before, but there's so many like game tools to make a game. It's never been this easy to make a game before.
True.
Because of that, like everyone and their mother has a game. There's so much like games that like a lot of games can get lost in the flood.
That's 100% correct. Yeah, it is a flood.
Yes, so you would say the game of marketing is very important. You do have to like market your game nowadays, right?
Yeah, my friend got me a game marketing book, and you open the first page of the marketing book, and the book has a comic in it of a guy going, "I can't believe I forgot to market my game." And I was like, ouch, that is a very like personal attack. Wow, how is this comic so deadpan? Jeez. It sounds ridiculous, but no, wow, they nailed it. Incredible. It's so important.
And it can be hard because a lot of times developers just want to make a game, publish it, and have it like sell. But like now you have to make the game and market it, and that requires a lot more time and sometimes money. Though there is a lot of like free marketing tools that we can take advantage of. But what are some of the marketing tools you use? Free and non-free ones. If you pay for marketing, I don't know if you pay or not. So
I haven't done a lot of paid marketing. I've had some friends that have been wanting to pitch in and help me do some test beds with Facebook marketing. And you know what? I did like $100 test bed with Facebook algorithms a while ago. I was so uncoordinated with marketing back then. I don't know if that data is any good. Yeah. The other thing is becoming like really coordinated and trying to like understand how things directly translate into traffic and stuff like that. And other things like with indie marketing like I do, it's not an impersonal process either. Again, like half the people who've played my game I like talk to personally a lot. Some of them I talk to every day. Some of the beta testers I like go and hang out at their house because like it's very like you're not like you're not a faceless corporation, you know. You're more like you have to be very personable and people's friend. And it's nice because game oh my gosh, game players, like how I was saying you're good at game design, you will not believe the feedback I get from these people in terms of like the level of game design expertise I just get
Oh
back from
yeah.
just regular people. I had someone tell me a better way to adjust my joystick timings so as to make the like whole game flow better. I was like, where are you people coming from? Like I went to school for this stuff and they don't teach this stuff there. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, I feel like nowadays part of it is like establishing that like community, making those Discord servers, but you also have to like keep at it. You can't just like set up and like walk away from a long time. You have to be active within your own community. It sounds like a simple thing, but like it can be hard to
Oh gosh,
even be active in your own community. So
I look at like people I follow who market way more effectively than I do. I finally figured out how to set people to like tell me every single time they tweet, and oh my goodness, it never stops. They never stop tweeting, and I'm like, I don't think I tweet enough, and then I did that, and my phone's just always going off. I'm like, oh god, how could I ever tweet enough? It's like impossible. It seems like it must be 4 people tweeting. How is this possible? I know the guy is just one person. How is this possible?
uh I do kind of want to like interrupt. Accurate just about your game.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. That's super awesome. I really appreciate that. Yeah. Join our Discord. Maybe I'll drop a link. I'm super active, so if you like have any problems, complaints, glitches, anything, I like fix things pretty much immediately. If I ever have bugs that users find, a lot of the features that people have suggested have made it into the game. Like I was saying to Nano earlier, the game, I ran an open beta, public beta for a year before launch. And that is like a good piece of advice I'd recommend to every game developer who's an indie. Like I was saying about just regular game players, the game design advice they'll give you is incredible. The stuff they'll help you with, like Shadowcrawl would not be what it is today without the massive community that helped me just make every facet of the game. So thank you a ton, Akira. I really appreciate that.
So so I'm trying to remember where we was the same, but so you've haven't quite fully experimented with the paid marketing you said.
Oh yeah, yeah. I did a little bit of the Facebook paid marketing, a little bit of the Twitter paid marketing. I haven't tried yet.
Yeah, I've experimented with Facebook efforts like 2 times. Okay, hopefully the third time's the charm, because I want to like use them to like promote like the audio versions of the podcast, you know. So hopefully that'll go, and I'll update you guys on that. But the like previous time I did, I got like I think close to like 1,000 like likes, but a lot of it was from people from Brazil.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I thought it would be a good idea to target people in Brazil, because the person I was interviewing was from Brazil. It kind of made sense, but
that's one thing that's actually really hard, is figuring out who to target it, and that's actually part of the big secret. That's probably where my like effective use of Reddit comes, is there's such specific sub communities that if I find an active enough, so like the roguelike community on there, for example, is probably one of the most well maintained Reddit communities that I've ever seen. You have to like follow the rules very well, but the players there know roguelike so well. I don't know how to explain. Like I have to use really flashy good screenshots if I post in the Unity groups, and I'll maybe get like 50 upvotes, right? If I just talk about a really cool mechanic in the roguelike Reddit, I'll get like 200 upvotes because those guys know the genre, they know the game. It's the perfect targeted audience. I had one that I don't even think I had a picture. It just had it just mentioned that every ending in Shadowcrawl affects new save files. Like if you get the evil ending, find shrines to your new Dark Lord on other characters, and that one got nearly 200 upvotes because they know like what that phrase means because they're all just very hardcore roguelikers. So yeah, finding that exact right target audience is extremely difficult and super important.
Okay, I have issues with Reddit. I'll try not going to a rant, but like, okay, I kind of get the whole self-promotion thing, but I don't know. I feel if it's related to the topic, it's no big deal as long as you're making it into a conversation and like just sharing what you're working on and stuff. I feel like Reddit can be too picky with like self-promotion and it can be inconsistent with each like threads, so it's like each like subreddit I have to like learn new rules, and I don't know, like.
No, you're 100% correct. Reddit's a terrifying minefield. It's very difficult to like not remember. I said you could definitely easily accidentally step on mods' toes. Oh yeah, it's so like it's very tricky. And yeah, what you were saying about self, that's like probably for regular users it's not hard, but if you're someone who's trying to do self promotion,
oh yeah,
very complicated. Yeah.
And you like you want to be careful to not make mistakes because you don't want to ruin your reputation. You don't want to be known as that self-promoting douchebag. Though I'm probably known as that, but
Exactly. Now you go hide from the mods for 3 months.
To be fair, it's kind of part of my brand. The whole premise of the show is for people to self-promote their indie games. So that's my excuse.
The people, that's true. That's a good point. No, and the people I see who like have done the most successful. Like I have a lot of game developers I know who started out even after like I'd launched Shadowcrawl, and they've very successfully marketed their games in very niche genres, and a lot of them were literally everywhere, posting all the time, every chance they get, just like a broken record, kind of sticking their head in every door, and like it worked really effectively. You just really got to be on it, and like there's a lot of them again. They're very friendly too, so they're very personable, and I think that's a big like part about it. Like self-promoting is good, but doing it the right way and being very personable about it is like probably what makes it most effective.
Like don't be that guy who just drops the link and leaves. Like talk about it. Like describe your like game, being like, hey, here's my game, here's a link, this is what it's about, this is how long it's been taking, and then maybe you get some comments and they'll ask questions about your game, then answer it, make it into a conversation, like show the passion about your project and about your game. So
every 2 weeks there's a thread that like they're like, is there a roguelike that's like this, and my game like fits the bill, but if I were to mention it every 2 weeks, I'd be way past like the self-promotion limit, And yeah, to me, it feels organic because the people get interested, the community responds positively. There's a kind of like really tricky, slippery slope stance they take where like, it's true if everybody did that, not everybody's going to be like as responsible or mature as like you and I will be about it.
I get why the rules are there. It's so people don't abuse and spamming the links 10 or 20 times a day. I get that, but like as long as you're not abusing, like don't like make a big deal. And it's hard to know if you're gonna get in trouble. Like every time I'm posting my like, and I'm kind of trying to this weird gray area because I try and post them in the like game dev and indie game stuff, and I'm not really a dev, but like it's dev related. My content is about engaging with the game dev community and promoting game devs, but I feel like sometimes I might be stretching it. I get nervous every time I'm posting.
I think that fits, but I think so if like they get on you for that kind of thing, then maybe like if you're promoting a platformer, going to the platformers Reddit and posting there, that kind of thing is what I'd recommend. Yeah, and I agree that you should totally be able to post in the game dev. And again, the community totally responds positively when I do jump in. If I jump in every 2 weeks, but then I get yelled at by the mods, and I tell them like, I know I broke the rules, but it was, and some of the mods will come at you like they are just a rule book, but some of them will be personable and understand context and stuff like that. And so it's really dependent on who you get to. But the thing is that the mods, they have they've earned the trust. And so even if you're right, they totally have the authority. And so you have to feel it out very carefully. You know what I mean? And approach that with such caution. Because I'm so hyper literal that no, if I'm right, I'm right. Darn you. But that gets me nowhere fast. Oh boy. So I'm okay, I have to bend, yield, feel the pathos of the situation. Don't be a hyper literal programmer. Feel this out.
So you think there's definite do's and don'ts when using social media? What should you never do on social media?
Okay, yeah. So as a game dev, this is the tricky one. So another positive comment I got from everyone everywhere was how I received criticism. Whenever there was criticisms, I would basically address them as if they were all valid, because the game from my perspective looks one way, but I really have no idea how it appears to other people. And so it's important to and if you're getting criticisms in comments or stuff like that, don't kind of address every individual criticism. You know what I mean? Just kind of address the complaint as valid. That's kind of the never do, is kind of addressing every single individual criticism, in a comment section or something.
Oh yeah,
that.
yeah.
Kind of steer it into how you understand their perspective, and keep it a positive comment. And if they DM you, so if it seems like a genuine and constructive criticism too, that's great. They might DM you. You might be able to DM them and say, hey, let's fix this, because that's how I get a lot of features or a lot of bug fixes. They'll be again, the joystick movement, he didn't like how the movement felt at all. I'd fine-tuned it very carefully, but in 30 seconds he had a slightly better timing, and I'm this is amazing. You're amazing. Wow. Yeah, and so following that kind of criticism as being valid, even if I wasn't sure if it was or not, kind of had massively positive consequences.
Yeah, it can be, and it can also sometimes be hard to distinguish between constructive and just trolls. And hey, especially when you start growing and you just get a lot of comments, a lot of criticism. A lot of that criticism can start to blend together, and sometimes you risk the mistake of calling out constructive criticism as hate when it really isn't.
Yeah, it's true. No, yeah, and that's one thing, especially in a purely text medium. There's no tonal inferences, and so it can be really hard to your mood almost will interpret the tone you're reading something in, basically. Yeah, and so it's really hard to just kind of, you got to tread carefully. And just kind of trolls too is an interesting. I did get my first scathing negative review, and to me, I felt he didn't really read anything, and I feel I'm kind of in the vein of Baldur's Gate and those kinds of games where if you don't read anything, you won't complete the quest. But I still address his complaint as valid. I've been adding more stuff to the combat log, trying to think about how can I increase the ease of access of information, even if I think well, this is the right way to play the game. I feel there's a right way to play Dark Souls. You know what I mean? People argue, is there a wrong way to play a game? No, there's definitely a right and a wrong way to play Dark Souls. So it tells you there's right and wrong ways. But even I think, oh, they did it the wrong way, I'm well, that's my fault for not guiding them into the right way to play the game. And that's Dark Souls' fault too. They give you a shield right at the start of the game. I don't even use shields. Shields are will hold you back, but the game teaches you hide behind the shield all the time before you even get a weapon. So it's their fault. Get good as a result. You know what I mean? Their poor tutorialization. What you were saying, yeah, how tutorialization is the hardest thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, get good is an endemic result of poor tutorialization. Yeah.
So last week I got my first troll.
Oh yeah. Oh goodness.
And it was like right before we started the recording of the podcast last week. Like we
Wow.
were just about to start, so luckily I catch it. And then after that, I was freaking out for a little bit. I was like, "What? What if another troll comes in? I don't got mods right now." So
Oh yeah.
I had to call an emergency mod. So,
Nice.
but and yeah, so we've talked a lot about like digital marketing, which is good. You know, it's free. It's the best way to access a lot of people. But I don't know. I think there's something special about like physical marketing,
Yeah.
especially at conventions. So, how many like conventions have you like vended at?
Man, I've been doing conventions kind of even before I was working on Shadowcrawl, like because I just wanted to feel it out. And there was the first or second game on Expo was at the Mesa convention center, and it was super affordable. And I just took like a bunch of random half cooked projects there, and the feedback I got was incredible. Everyone wanted the games to be out. I didn't even think any of them looked like, I thought they all looked graphically terrible, and everybody just felt like they had a bunch of indie charm. It was so like inspiring and motivating, and yeah, I'm terrible at like being consistent on the digital marketing. I'm like a person to person kind of person. So like being in person at the shows like that, I do a way better job at marketing myself. I get people of all like ages and gaming like interested in hearing about the game, just because like I'm way better at kind of talking about it to people than I am about like writing about it or posting about it, that sort of thing. Yeah, I 100% agree. Conventions are where it's at. They're so great. I've probably done, let's see, oh god, I can't even count them now for Shadowcrawl. I've been doing them for years and years for Shadowcrawl.
What do you think? Speaking of conventions, people who are watching this live on Twitch, me and Wicked Cake Games and a couple of people will be at TileCon at Friday. We will be doing a panel at 5:30. I forget the panel room, but come and check out our panel. It's going to be about the relationship between game developers and streamers. But if you're watching the audio or like YouTube version, the panel already happens. So thank you, people who showed up. If people showed up, that would be sad if people don't. Please show up,
No,
please.
I had good reception at the panels at those places.
But so has the panels actually like help you like sales wise? Do you feel or no?
Okay, so
I mean not panels, conventions, but
conventions definitely help me in the terms of marketing. Yeah, definitely, and sales, and just getting the word out. Like my website has insane traffic. I can't believe it. Like thousands of visitors per month, every month for months after the convention. I don't even update the website.
You mean people actually go to websites?
Oh yeah, so I bring business cards, and like so I give out like 500 business cards, 500 flyers. I have posters. Like I definitely have a full setup. I just like I've met artists here and there over the years, so I will like rudely beg and plead for a piece of sympathy art that I can put on a poster, and they're so sweet.
Oh, sorry, I was playing with my business card.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. No, it's important to have that stuff, and have kind of like have your booth looking like I don't know, having like a consistent kind of mood in your booth, or a theme, or like just having it look kind of official, and just draping. I literally just drape it in like artwork for the game, or artwork friends have made for the game, and that kind of does the trick, makes it look official.
One thing I liked about your booth were those like posters you were like giving out, and I liked how you had the link to the game on the back of it.
Yeah, I really I like, because I try to do like every expo, every convention, I kind of see what worked and what didn't work. I don't even know if I mentioned that the last one, like I built a card game for Shadowcrawl that I tried out at did tournaments for at the convention, and it was really awesome. But I try to for example, business cards. I work best when I blab at the people about the game, and business cards just get people away from your table. The other thing is whenever there's a ton of people at the booth playing the game, I get tons more people walking over going, there's a lot of people having fun over here. I want to see what's going on. So business cards, you give them to people and they walk away. I realized I needed something that did the opposite. So I tried to turn my business cards into a small playing card game. Just always going for outside the box kind of marketing ideas, like the posters that I was giving out. And people really loved, it was just artwork of all the characters kind of put onto a poster, but stuff like that. You feel like you might not have the resources on hand to create a bunch of marketing materials, and you'd be surprised if the game is made, you have more marketing materials than you think you do.
So is it typically pretty affordable, expensive to exhibit at con, or how do you budget that to make sure it's actually worth it,
Varies wildly. It's only the last few have maybe paid for themselves in the game. And that's probably without the cost of some of the marketing materials. But it's helped for networking, and I meet lots of incredible developers, and I meet artists and modelers and sound people, and the industry shows up at these expos, So if you want to start meeting, I walked around to all the YouTubers. I just respectfully hand them my stuff. Will say who I am and stuff like that. Tell them and I'm very forthwith because I don't know how to I don't really know how to I don't know what you call it, come up with a spiel. So I just kind of tell them hey, I'm an indie developer that knows nothing about marketing, and you're a giant YouTuber, so I'm over here talking to you.
I want to network with giant YouTubers. It's a lot easier for you. You have a game. I'm just another content creator. It's a lot more difficult. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, even if you went up and were honest too, just about I know nothing about this, and you seem to have done very well. Is there any advice? A lot of them are very friendly. Some of them would seem like they didn't want to be, you know what I mean, telling me that, and I'd feel bad, and I don't want to walk away in the middle of it, which is what it seems like he wants me to do, but that's rude. So you can kind of tell, but not most of them aren't like that. Even if they don't, and that's what's cool, is even if they don't want to, they will still give you advice. That's so freaking nice of them. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's incredible. So it's really, you just kind of go up and just be totally honest about having no idea what's going on. Just, how did I get here? This isn't where I parked my car. They'll totally work with you.
Yeah, I'm just always nervous because people get crazy with the whole no self-promotion things. So I'm always afraid to sell myself because people don't like it when you self-promote and that kind of stuff. So even in real life with random giant YouTubers at cons, I'm afraid they might me talking about my brand, they might take it the wrong way or stuff,
Yeah. One thing too, because I used to worry about that a little bit too. Gosh, the conventions are such great practice too. That was another thing. Is it's kind of almost like what Fight Club described as single serving interactions. You kind of it's a great way to practice, you know what I mean, and refine how you're talking to people, and just because you a lot of these people you might not see again, and so if you feel you kind of messed up in that interaction, well, you can just try again in the next one. So that was great for learning how to talk to people at these shows. And I've kind of figured out now because with Shadowcrawl, I'm just so excited and passionate about it, and that's what seems to make people okay with and that's why I'm way better at in person than going on Reddit and typing about it. In person, people can tell wow, you're so excited and passionate about it. They see that I'm kind of unloading on them about it because I'm so excited about it, versus rather than I'm trying to sell it or that kind of thing. And it's true. I'm so excited to talk about it that I'd rather just tell them about it, and I don't care if they buy it. I just wanted to tell you about it.
Yeah, that's kind of because I am very passionate about nanos indie cafe, and like one YouTuber in particular I would love to like talk about because he's into a lot of like indie game stuff too. It is the completionist.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I did technically meet him, but
Cool.
this was before Nano's Indie Cafe started.
Oh.
So at that time I was streaming, but I wasn't doing Nano's Indie Cafe yet. Actually,
Oh,
I'm pretty sure that was the Game Expo where I thought of the idea of it, though. So,
nice, awesome.
but though I did like briefly see like Gerard at PAX West, but like I didn't get a chance to go up and say hi. So, because
Yeah.
PAX West was kind of crazy. It was like it was like my first outstate convention, but it was fun.
I've had a few like giant names that I felt like I've met once or twice, and I felt like if I'd met them now, like being better at this and being like understanding kind of how to talk to people about this a lot better. I feel like I made bad first impressions of some of these people, and I'm like, darn, if only I knew what I knew now when I talked to them. So I totally feel you about meeting him before you were joining Nano Hero, and you're like, man, I wish I could have met him now, so I know the right questions today. Darn it.
Well, I don't even know the right questions, but like I didn't even have Nano's Indie Cafe at that time, and plus like Gerard does do indie game, even like he's started doing this thing once a year, this like indie game like charity marathon, and I think it goes to like dementia or something like that. So you know, but. So did you go to a lot of like cons before you started like making your game, or did that only happen when you started making your game?
You know, I would go to things like Comic-Con, not like regularly. I do them like very infrequently on like special occasions and stuff like that. No, it was definitely once I kind of started I do things like the Renaissance Fair. The Renaissance Fair feels like the conventions. It's very similar atmosphere, but no, I didn't start kind of just majorly regularly going until kind of started promoting my own stuff, and then discovered like, wow, this is like really fun. It's like a whole kind of culture just at the convention, you know, and it's really a neat atmosphere. It's really fun to be immersed in that.
Cool. So how have you been to out-of-state cons or no?
I do the California Renaissance Fair. Well, actually, no, I have done promotion at out-of-state conventions. I definitely did at least 1 year at the Frankensons Expo, or no, it was like a retro game expo at the Frankensons show. And I'll do that because like we'll have friends in the area too that I can stay with, but like I'll look for affordable shows, because what you were saying about, are they affordable? Like, they're super expensive. Sometimes it varies almost wildly. They can be like 150 for like a booth if you hunt it down really well. Otherwise, it could be like 500 or 600 for a booth.
And let's not get started about GDC.
Oh yeah! Oh my gosh! Yeah. No, I don't even buy at Comic-Con or any of those things, because like it's got a 2-year waiting list and the prices are insane. And yeah.
Yeah. So so we have a couple more questions. So do you have a daily routine?
I'm sorry, you cut out there for a minute. I can't hear you.
Do you have a daily routine?
Oh, kind of, yeah. I definitely try to like program and do a little art every day. Just like, yeah, I definitely, but it's also because like I said, with programming, it's not really that like I do it willfully. I just like feel like doing it all the time. Certain things that helped though, because I talked to people about, like, I'd never completed a game before Shadowcrawl, and I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of incredible prototypes. I would just get bored and wander off. I finally figured out that like part of the routine is what helped me finish it. One thing is, like, as a programmer, kind of what makes me want to make a game is when I play a video game. Certain video games, like sometimes I'll be playing a video game and like you can't play for more than half an hour before the compulsion to like make something that it's inspired you to do is so overwhelming. You have to put it down and go program. And I figured out if I like only played those video games during the development of Shadowcrawl, it kept me on focus. And so that's the other thing too, is finding a good balance between like development and not burning yourself out, you know. Definitely like take times to play video games. That's so important as a game developer.
Yeah, it can be like even with content creation and streaming, it can be really hard to distinguish what's work and what's like downtime, because that can really blur together. Like I'll be honest, I've been having this bad habit, and I want to fix it. I have this bad habit of only playing video games when I stream. I gotta fix that. I gotta like start playing games like more often, because there's a different experience playing a game and streaming a game.
Yeah,
because streaming is like more than game. I consider it kind of like a performance, like entertainment, you know.
And I tried to program while streaming, and weirdly, my cognitive load was increased, and I didn't frequently have problems that I knew as soon as I stopped streaming, I'd fix this problem instantly, and I was right every single time. And so there's definitely like just this extra layer of mental load when you're streaming that like you might not notice it consciously, but it makes such a huge difference in like your performance. And it's hard to, so practicing playing games regularly when you're not streaming would probably help you like deal with that and combat that kind of thing.
Yeah. So have you started doing like game dev streams? Like, do you think that would like help increase your brand, or do you feel like you don't need it?
I think it's probably definitely something that's helpful, because a lot of the Twitter threads that do really well of mine aren't ones talking about the game so much as design and development processes behind parts of the game. It's interesting. The indie game community is way more interested in half-built games or games that are being built than they are in finished games. It's really funny because they're there because they're all learning. They're all intellectuals. They want to see the guts of the games. A completed and polished game, they don't get to see those guts. And so streaming, I think, would help, or like a development diary, I think, would help. And for several reasons. One, with streamer, this might be a little easier to like do, but like as an indie dev, it's really important to be constantly like making sure that people know that like you're a person. Because again, it's not faceless marketing. You don't want to come off as a corporation or like a brand.
Because a lot of times you don't get to see the face behind the dev.
Yeah.
So that can sometimes work to your advantage if you become this like giant whale mystery kind of like thing, you know.
That's exactly one of the reasons I was hoping I could get my camera to work right. Is because again, I want people to, again, I feel like every little step you can take towards kind of showing people that you're a person, just out there kind of doing it. And that's what, when I do panels, a lot of the times it's just on how do I like, because I have like a young child with special needs, and a lot of the panels are just about how do I manage a busy life schedule and develop games at the same time. And that's one of the things that interests the developers the most, is seeing that, oh, this person's like a full person, but also they released a game. How did they achieve that kind of thing?
Are you a person now? I mean,
if I fail the capture test more than 3 times, I'm not sure anymore.
Yeah, like, I don't know.
Maybe I am a robot.
I'll find out Friday. But
yeah, that would be exciting to get to be in front of people. And I like to like record panels and stuff like that. So I might have someone record it if you don't have someone recording it, and that way you can put it online and that kind of thing.
Okay, so I got a camera, but the battery, it doesn't have the best of batteries. That's the problem. That's the, because I bought more for like streaming and stuff like that, and I haven't bought like an AC adapter, so like it can probably only record half an hour, I think. So
yeah,
So,
Yeah, and
uh, go ahead.
oh yeah, no, just yeah, I'll definitely have a person there too. Probably just a cell phone recording it, but
Yeah.
that way I'll get you a copy too if
Okay.
you need it as well.
Mhm.
And yeah, and again, because it helps to show that like just I'm a person out there, not a brand. And that's the other thing I was saying about with the development diary. It helps not just kind of to let people see the guts of the game, but they see your process. They see it's very personal. You know what I mean? And I think that's what's important to people is just seeing personal stuff kind of in the development process. I think it makes them feel connected to the project, you know,
Mhm.
and definitely I feel like every person who's come and asked me questions or offered input is definitely connected to the project. So I don't feel like that's an incorrect feeling that they feel like seeing the personal stuff makes them
Yeah.
connected to it, you know?
Yeah, so like I like to connect with a lot of like devs on Twitter, but something I've noticed, and I'm not like dissing devs. Like if this is how you want to run things, do your thing. But I've noticed some devs don't run those social medias. Even like indie devs, some like indie devs have other people running the like social media, and I guess that's okay. But when you have like a brand that revolves around connecting and networking with like game devs, I like to actually like connect with the actual like devs.
Oh yeah, and actually, so when I'd work at larger indie game companies too, we'd have marketing teams, but there would be groups we'd work with that if the team lead wasn't the person interacting with them, they were offended, and it's problematic slightly because like the team lead's very busy, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
develop. If you think like AAA has crunch problems, it's crunch is really like a symptom of project management, hands down. And so yeah, indies have a lot of crunch problems too. So the leads are very busy. They do not. It's nothing personal. They love talking to people out there, but they do not have time to be out there also corresponding to emails all the time. Yeah, but you're 100% correct that they definitely want to be dealing with the dev, and I get that too because like no one can talk about the project like the way I can. You know what I mean? And I'm passionate to talk about it too. So I'd love to like talk to everyone all day about the project. That would be like dream come true.
So do you run both of your social medias?
Yeah, I do it myself. That's what I was talking about. Video editing. Oh my gosh, is like the worst nightmare ever.
Uh,
Like I basically just spend all my free time video editing for 15-second clips on the weekend. It's like, oh my gosh.
like I'm not trying to do fancy editing. And my problem is I get distracted. Like I don't know what it is. Like I feel like I can only work for a couple of seconds, and then I get up and get distracted by something. Like I don't know. I don't know. I cannot like work in my room.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how people work from home without getting distracted, man.
Yeah.
I need an off like an office building or something. So.
No, it's actually super hard. No, I've done a lot of this contracting stuff from home too. Part of it is like work life balance isn't like as important for productivity when your work isn't at your home. But if you're like not managing that work life balance when you're working from home, you're not going to be productive at all because you like feel like you're not getting enough of those. So again, what I was saying about like game developers and streamers should definitely be gaming. It's not just because it teaches you stuff, but it's helping you achieve that balance. It's helping you kind of relieve that stress. I find I'll like go for weeks without playing anything because I'm in development crunch. I'll finally crack because I just really want to play something or I get a new game. And like when I go back to working after playing games for a couple of days, my productivity, it's skyrocketed. It's incredible. I'm like, man, if I had done this 4 days ago, it would have been way more effective and productive. Yeah, and so finding kind of a good schedule to intermix your leisure activities with your, and what you were saying about with streaming and development, they kind of blur together. And it can help to like utilize that too to help them try to optimize your work related leisure gaming, basically optimize what you're getting out of it pretty much.
Yeah, but at the same time, I do want to like separate the two.
Yeah, that's true. Compartmentalization is super important in this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so we've talked about a lot of games and stuff. And speaking of like leisure, do you have any like other hobbies outside of like gaming and game development and stuff like that?
Um, Gosh, lately, no, mostly just games and stuff. I like used to like skateboard and do all that kinds of fun stuff. Go outside and play sports. But like I said, I have a child, so I spend a lot of time either like going out and doing stuff with her, or just kind of when she's like content, I can like play games or program or do that kind of thing.
Okay, so we are on the final question, and then we will open it to Q&A if there's any Q&A. So if there's anyone in chat that has some questions, get your questions ready. If not, then we're going to end pretty soon. So what are your game dev goals for this year? We've just entered the new year, so do you have any goals? Any like new projects you're working on? Like, are you working on any other games besides Shadowcrawl? Or like, what's big for you this year?
So I do have like a ton of kind of partially started prototypes, but I am working now on like a secret project that I'll definitely be announcing
Ooh.
more about sooner. Yeah, I definitely have really big announcements. I have had some leaks on my Discord, but at the moment I'm not allowed to leak anything just yet. But I'll have real exciting news about. I definitely plan on releasing a new game this year. I also plan on the Shadowcrawl card game that I tested out was like a big hit at the tournament. They really enjoyed it. So I'm going to make the tournament version was a game where like your entire deck is 5 cards, and it plays these really intense, fun matches. So I'm probably going to fix that up a little bit, release it as like a not a TCG, but kind of like a board game, and make little expansions for that. But I also want to refine it into like a full on TCG, because I did something that wasn't based on Magic the Gathering. And I really like how it's come out, and a lot of people really liked just that it was a card game that wasn't Magic the Gathering. So I think I'm going to try to work on the card game this year, and maybe just like I really enjoy making little tiny arcade games, and I used to make them all the time, and I kind of want to go back to that this year because doing that alongside everything, that'd be really cool if I could release a few little fun arcade games this year alongside everything.
So are you into a lot of board games or?
Um, I like. I'm into a lot of card games. I get off and on into board games. Well, I'll play D&D and stuff with my friends. I haven't in a while though, but my brother got back into board games big time recently, and man, they've evolved in such dynamic, cool ways. You have the like asynchronous board games too, where like certain people in like playing the game have different rules and objectives and stuff like that that other people don't know about. So the design for board games has gotten really advanced. I think it's because a lot of people will prototype video games ideas in board game format first. So this has resulted in like a lot of really cool abstract board game design. But yeah, lately I've been getting back into like board games and like what you'd call like non-typical card games, like Super Fight, if you ever heard of that one, or other like kind of interesting card games that aren't TCGs. They're like board game card games.
Deck builders or no?
Not deck builders. No. Like things in the line of Cards of Humanity. Although I have seen a few like kind of deck builder board games too. Yeah, people have been really playing with kind of like the boundaries between genres. It's really exciting to see the board game community right now.
Cool. So if anyone doesn't have any questions, we are going to wrap this up. Do you have any final words you want to say to the audience?
Not right off. Just again, like I said, I'm very active in my communities, and like if anyone ever has any ideas or complaints or even questions, comments, wants to talk about the game or anything, I'm always on my communities responding to people. So always feel free to drop by, talk about anything, pretty much.
And where can they find you? Find your game?
So I'm on Twitter. Is where I post regular updates about like features and stuff that I'm adding to the game, and I post about the lunar and solar calendars, and that's at shadow_crawl. I'll send you some links to drop in the the chat too.
Well, this is also going on iTunes and stuff.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Okay, yeah. So at shadow_crawl is my Twitter, and then I'm not sure how you find Discord communities. I do have a Shadowcrawl Discord, which you might even be able to Google, because now I show up at the top of Google searches, which is nice.
Yeah, cool. There's like a URL. It's like discord.gg/whatever the like invite link is. So.
Okay, I see.
So yeah, the Discord's a little bit harder to promote unless you just drop it or like have a command,
I know if you type it into Google and stuff. Also on my Steam page, I have links to everything too. Yeah, so you can find me through all of that.
Cool. And you guys can find me at the usual places. Twitter NowHero5, and you can find me at twitch.tv/NowHero Wednesday through Friday at 2 p.m. MSC, and we talk and promote indie games and like showcase the like indie community. So if you have your own indie game or indie project, come by, stop by, talk about your game, tell us about it, promote it, and we will see you guys next week.